Is there a memory that you have from that time that's like very clear or very pleasant, very happy?
Yes, because I was always very chatty. And people would say to me, I was 9, "Oh, you're going to America." And I would say, yes. Of course, America was Canada. And I'd say, yeah, but they say sausages don't grow in trees. I don't know as a child where I got that from. But I used to greet everybody with, but sausages don't grow in trees.
So you're growing up in Italy. It's not the easiest time. And your dad is at war.
Yeah, we were
constantly.
poor. Yes, yeah, we were poor. But basically, I remember being happy.
But you also remember your dad coming home from time to time.
Only came home once.
Yeah.
And of course, at school, because I was in the situation, there was another girl that was also poor that the biggest treat was from another aunt in Canada that she would send us Rice Krispies.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
Kellogg's
that
Rice
was
Krispies.
the big, big treat. And of course, we would sit outside. Am I okay so far?
Oh, yeah. No, sorry. I was just making sure the camera was warm.
We would sit outside some of the wealthy families and just dream and eat our, what it was, Rice Krispies. And I wish after coming here, I was never in contact with her again. And that was a real treat. We were put down because we were poor. One of my poverty signs was that they had school uniforms that obviously was lightweight wool. Ours was out of blankets, so they knew we were poor. And if I now remember, going back, is that young kids would go outside of Venice. In the name of it, I will remember in a minute. Cavallino. It was called a place called Cavallino, little whatever. And Cas, you're bringing me back a lot of memories. And I must have been about 8 because I came to Canada at 9. And this young friend of mine, we were there free because my dad served in the war and we went free to this place. And of course, it was run by nuns. A friend of my father was the head counselor there. And we were always teased. I wish I could remember her name right now. And so do you know what we did? Because we were kind of bright, both of us, I think. We used to make holes at the beach, and we'd cover it with little pieces of wood and grass and sand, and we would tease them, and these twits that drove us crazy would fall in the hole. And, and I tell you, we were very mischievous. And of course, my brother went with my dad different times, and my dad was sort of the cook and counselor there, but we were the poverty childs. But the biggest highlights, my mother came from a better class of family than my father. And she had 2 brothers that were policemen, which, was apparently, I was told, to have police in your family, it comes from, you are from a very good, upstanding family. Honorable, I guess is the word.
Right.
And one day they said to me, you have someone wants to see you. It was my favorite uncle in the whole wide world. Single, his name was Zio, Uncle Ido. And he came running with horseback, and he picked me up like, in the movies, and he took me for a ride. And I sort of said, there,
on your horse.
It was one of my highlights of being a child.
On his horse?
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
You mentioned that your mother also ran, so while your father was at war for the Italian army.
No, after the war.
After the war. Okay. But your mother, my great-grandmother,
yeah,
she ran the House of the People.
And with my father. Yes, it's all over Italy. And if you go to different places in Italy, I guess Mussolini gave the men that gave time to war, and obviously, whatever, were they more, I guess more, what is the word, proper soldiers or whatever, yeah.
But most of the soldiers didn't have a choice either. They were told to go.
Yeah, and they had of course it was a small town, and it was called the House of the People, and still Casa dei Popoli, and you still see the sign across Italy when I have gone back to travel, and it was that we had free room and board, there at the house by my mom with my dad, of course. It was like a simple bar. Men went there to get together, but it wasn't enough money. So my father, a very strong, big personality man, he went and made salami for the locals. And for that, he brought home some meat.
Right.
And then also he had another job, which was he would take sort of a broom. What do you call that? You said you saw it in Mexico.
Oh yeah, where
a
they
corn
water,
broom,
yeah,
like a
where
corn
they water
broom.
the streets.
Yeah, and he
so
would
dusty.
sort of soak it and then spray the road for the dust. And I remember my dad doing that.
I'm just gonna move your mic down. Nope, you're good. You're good.
And then of course, like I told my dad had two sisters here. One came, I believe it was 1930, Zia Stella, and she came because Italian men and they needed women for them. So she came and she married, and here, and then she had a sister that lost her husband in the war. That's, I told you, my favorite, Zia Genia. It was called an Atto di Richiamo. And Atto di Richiamo is when you know someone and you ask them to make the calling to come to Canada. The act of calling.
Right.
And so she...
How would you just get a letter? Or with like a person from
only,
the government?
It was by, in those days, text, what was it called?
Oh, sure, like a typewriter and stuff like that. But how did you know it was the real deal?
I think they were in contact. They had addresses.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this Jenny wrote to her older sister, and I have two children, and may I come to Canada? And of course she did. Help her, and she said, and I have someone that I never married, and a good man, and she came to Canada with two children. His name was Piging, and he was a good man to her. And like I told you, I loved her. And then, of course, my dad said, hey, now he was younger. May I l'atto di richiamo again? And he did it again. I think it was through his older sister, Stella. And so 1949, the government said that we could come.
Okay.
So then I guess I was about 8, 9 then, and my brother was 6, 7. And we had to go to Rome.
Before we jump into your story of getting to Canada, so we're in Canada right now. An election's coming up, and obviously people are going to be voting. Mm-hmm. So Mussolini being a dictator, were there ever conversations about him that you can remember?
No, all I remember that my mother, of course my father fought, and my mother had a simple wedding band, and she said she hid it somewhere in wherever, in her, the farm area, because he collected gold to make, I guess, bullets or something. I don't know what it was.
So the government would steal
Yeah, that's
jewelry.
right, that's right, yeah. And of course, she hated Mussolini.
Right.
And my dad, obviously, he talked very, very little about the war.
Right, of course. Yeah, I think that's how it goes.
Yeah, that's how it goes, yeah.
But when you heard the news about Mussolini being executed,
that one I don't remember.
You don't remember that?
No,
There was
I guess I don't care. I didn't care. I was little,
Well, I'm sure there's a level of anger.
I only cared about going bike riding with my aunt.
No, I mean from your parents, because I'm sure there's a level of anger and frustration where...
No, we really didn't talk.
No? Okay.
No.
No, that's good to know.
No, I don't remember really talking. Although my dad, he was at war, came back, and obviously, he was, my dad, from what I understand, interesting how my dad met my mom.
Why don't we talk about that? So how did they meet?
I told you, my mother actually ran away with my dad. And
so your mother's from a higher class?
Higher class, because she had 2 policeman brothers.
Now, is that like a
type
of last
my
name?
My grandfather was a principal of a school, a teacher. So it was above the level of, that my dad came from very, 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 very poor.
So is it the type of job that you have that sort of
The family,
tells
I
you-
guess. Yeah,
Right.
where
Because
you
in some
live.
cultures, it's like
Yeah.
the type of last name that you have.
No,
And, okay.
no, not to do with the last name.
Okay.
It was only that lower class. You know, we were
Right.
considered lower class living there. And of course, she said she fell in love with my dad because he was so handsome and charming and whatever at the well. Then, of course, she was disowned by her family. And he took her to the farm where I was born, and very, very poor, like I said. And then my father, at war, he saw someone. Like I said, he was quite a strong man. We can show that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Show it to the camera.
Oh, the camera. You can see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There was this man that was injured, and apparently, as I'm told, he carried this man back home, and he's well, how he did it, I don't know, but it was the big story that we heard about my father, my brother, and I, and took him home to the next town where my mom was born, and then he went to visit him, and my mother was there because he had married my mother's sister. So then my mother was there, and of course my mother fell in love with him. So my father saved this man. His name was Zio. What was his name? And anyway, and so when he went to visit him after the war, and of course he survived, he then met. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out his name. I
No,
do
take
know
your
it.
time.
I do know it. And he saw my mother there, and that's it. And she ran away with him.
Did your grandmother, excuse me, I keep saying grandmother,
that's
did
right.
your mother rekindle the relationship with her family? Okay.
Yes. When her family found out, matter of fact,
Because that was seen as a very big deal.
to marry below class. Matter of fact, she was dishonored, the family, and from what I heard, one of the brothers went to Sears, wanted to kill you, dishonored the family. But then when my dad came back, obviously became pregnant with my brother, and her mother missed her because my mother was so much like her own mother. And when my brother was born, they called her back.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
Yeah, and that's so. My brother and I teased. You're brought up much better than I was.
Right. That's funny.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, and like I said, and then so they had quite a story. My mother had quite a life.
Well, your mother had how many siblings?
Ooh, I think 11.
11. And you have one sibling. Is there a reason
Just one.
Is there a reason that there was a big difference in the
Maybe
size
my
of the
father
family?
wasn't there enough.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. But that was the case for, and even
Oh, yes.
my grandfather, your husband,
Yes.
has 7 siblings.
Yes.
So,
no,
big families.
5 and 6 of them in
Six.
in
Sorry.
your grandfather's. My father, I believe they had 18.
18.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Because back then it wasn't the government. I mean, these days you
Trying to
can.
find the pictures here. Anyway, this is a room where there's a lot of history.
That's what's interesting, right? Is before.
They're children.
Well, when you were younger, if you got sick, there wasn't any senior
the
living.
pharmacy.
There wasn't
I remember
any
the
senior
pharmacy.
pharmacy. Yeah, but that stuff didn't exist back then.
Oh, I
so
have
it was your
another-
family that took care of you.
Being that the Pope just died, and I was lucky enough to be very, very close to see him in Rome. My mother, like we're speaking Catholicism. My mother had a third child after my dad, I guess the war. Her name was Franca. I kind of honored the name because I have a Franco and a Franca as my 2 children.
Oh, okay. So that's where the name comes from.
My mother, living in the Casa del Popolo, which it was government owned, next to her, I am told as a child, I do not remember, that she had little Franca. She was just a little baby. And of course, in Italy, you have the processions. about, the Madonna, they have different holidays, the procession. And my mom...
Procession refers to religious holidays?
Yes,
Okay.
very Catholic,
Right.
with the
Easter,
Madonna,
Christmas.
yes, and different holidays. And my mother Franca died, and she had her in front of the Casa del Popolo for whoever was going by, the priest, the whole procession, to bless little Franca in a coffin. But they stopped next door, which she was a doctor's family, and this lady was not of good reputation because she painted her nails red.
Oh, okay.
All I remember that as a child. And but they did not stop and bless my mother's little daughter's coffin.
Well,
and
your
for
sister.
that, my mother was not didn't go to church very often. It hurt her.
Well, that was your sister.
Yes, Franca.
I never knew that.
Yes, no.
Was that common?
No,
Was
and
it?
that-
I mean, we were talking
No,
about
no,
if you got sick, you
because
just had to hope to get better.
The poor will say, hey, they stop at the rich,
Sure.
Yeah, because we never had a voice.
So wait, go over that one more time, please. So he blesses her in an inappropriate way?
No, they just passed it.
Oh, they didn't give any blessing.
The procession stopped and blessed the lady with the red fingernail.
Right. So she took that as a very big insult.
And my mother, of course, they didn't stop in front of the Casa del Popolo, being, it was Mussolini. It was subsidized, I guess, or given free.
Right. So they viewed you as kind of below
and
people.
she never, ever, ever, ever forgot it.
Really? Well, I wouldn't either.
And I can understand it.
I mean, I wouldn't either. So I'd be pretty pissed
I can
off.
understand it. My dad went to Mass more than my mom. My mom said the rosary, but Mass, and she never really, like priests.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean,
She had quite a life.
I appreciate you sharing that story.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
at the point
It just-
where the war ends, your father gets back, and this is actually the first time that you meet him.
Yes, because first time I was very little. She got, I possibly don't remember because Roman was only 2 years older.
Well, still,
Younger,
that's,
I should say. I'm 2 years older.
but that's pretty rough, right? Like not knowing who your dad is?
No. And I guess the soldiers went home maybe for a leave or they were in passing. My dad was in Africa and in Germany.
Right. Do you want to talk about your dad's story a little bit before we jump to
my
moving
dad,
to Canada?
Apparently, from what I understand, he was a cook. He was a cook. And my dad, he was a big personality, like I told you, a big man. And he risked his life to go outside, barracks, would you call them?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he would
Army
bring
base,
food.
barracks.
Yeah, he would throw food to the children over the fence.
Oh,
I
man.
remember people telling me that about him. He was a good soul.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that and of course they say if they caught him, then that would have been the end of it. Yeah, but he always wore like big overcoats and everything. He said I would hide it and I'd go to the fence and throw it over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that was nice, eh?
Well, probably because he was probably
He
in
was
that
quite
posi-
honorable.
Yeah, and he knew
Yeah.
what that was like
Yeah.
to probably not have
And
a lot of food.
We probably should have asked him questions. When we came to Canada after working hard, he drank, and I think was part of the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think unfortunately, that time was, I don't think they understood
We didn't
just how
understand. We didn't.
traumatic
We
or,
didn't.
awful
We didn't.
the experiences were.
No.
So, well, I mean, that's, if that's the way that you remember him, then that's pretty amazing.
Oh, no. Most honorable, everyone that says your dad, Later on, of course, he was very, like I told you, smoke and drinking, and basically that's what took his life.
Right. But he also died, I think he died in his mid-60s, early
No, 70.
70, okay. Because when my dad was 13.
Yes, very close to your dad.
Okay. No, that's awesome. Did he like Canada? Did your parents like Canada?
Both of them. If we couldn't go on, yeah. So anyway, then what happened is that, he writes his sister to make this act of calling, the Richiamo. And we had to go to Rome. That's another story I remember as a child. And for our medical. And my father, we didn't get a stamp of approval because my dad had a splinter in his eye and the doctor did not approve him coming to Canada. Like I told you, my dad, was a big talker, personality and all that. He went and found the doctor and begged him. He said, I must go to Canada. I have 2 children and a wife. And whatever he did, he must have done it right because he stamped it. So then because of this eye problem, we didn't go home that night. So we had to eat in Rome. Basically, I don't remember where we slept. But we went to a restaurant. My brother now, okay, I'm about, not 9 yet, because I was 9 when I came to Canada. And we were hungry. So we sat in a restaurant. I remember my mom and dad ordering, I recall, like Lipton soup. And I looked at them because I was older than my brother. And I said, what about you? They said, we weren't hungry. To this day, my mom said, you knew that we didn't have money. I was older and more. My brother doesn't remember that.
Right.
But then, of course, we back home. And I'm telling everybody I'm going to America. And the sausages don't grow on trees. And I had to leave behind my friends, you know.
Are you in school at this point as well? Okay.
Yes. I was a little bit ahead of my time in school because my grandfather, now we're living in my mother's house, so I was grade 5 at 9. And this is it.
Hey, you skipped a year.
Yes. Because of apparently my grandfather. He was a beautiful man. My grandmother was kind of an old grumpy thing, I think. But my grandfather was a beautiful little man.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so then, of course, goodbye to Canada. And we went to Genoa to get the ship. Genoa is just Monaco. We went to Monaco. We could just walk over to Genoa. It was one of the biggest ports. And we got the ship. And of course, we came steerage. And another story, Cas, that I come to think, my brother was not seasick. We were all seasick and whatever. But I remember, and my mother, of course, told me later, I guess, I was yappy all the time, ringlets and whatever. And now when I left Italy, I was 9. And of course, I'm in the boat, so I must be about 9 months.
8.5.
And I was told that an American from upstairs went to my mother, my dad is in Canada, and said if she would sell me for a certain price.
Really? Someone wanted to buy you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank God my mother didn't say yes.
Was that
you're
common?
My grandson.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what, she said, they came. Obviously, the captain came and, whatever she was telling me. And of course, I guess that could have happened, during that time.
Sure,
Maybe
absolutely.
we were so poor, people,
especially being...
Oh, I heard families putting out children because they couldn't afford to feed them.
Putting them up for adoption?
No, I think just
selling them.
Just go.
Wow.
I mean, you go to Ellis Island, you hear stories.
Right, there were a lot of orphans at Ellis Island.
I know of 2 cases they told me where mom said, we can't feed you, go.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Sad, it was sad, yeah. And of course, they were talk about ambition and da-da-da-da. My brother was never seasick, so...
Well, let's talk about the ship ride.
Very successful Italian, Boza Foods. People in Vancouver, they all go there. He's now gone. Loved every time he saw Romano because he would wash diapers at 7 years old. Can you imagine? Right. He would wash diapers at 7. And he always, your brother, because he wasn't ill. And he was greatly admired for this.
Okay, that's awesome. So let's talk about the I mean, you go on cruises these days. I've been on ferries as well.
Yeah.
I assume it wasn't as luxurious.
No, we were with steerage.
Steerage.
Like if you see Titanic.
So what does that mean? Can you
I think it's in the bottom where the cows are, I call it.
the very bottom of the boat where the animals are.
Yeah.
That's where
yeah.
you were.
Yeah. I mean, Titanic, you'll see it.
Wow.
You know, in the way in the bottom there, you were not allowed. And then, you know, of course, my mother packed a little bit of salami, bread, and da-da-da-da-da.
So you're living at the bottom of a boat for the trip is about 2 weeks.
But it took quite a while.
So you're living in like darkness at the
I
bottom
think it
of
was
a boat.
nothing, you know. What we ate, we were all in the same boat, you know, all Italians, poor, and we're coming to Canada.
It didn't matter. You were on the boat, and that's what was important.
No, that was. I just don't remember. I really do, you know, being sick and whatever have you. But we all, and if ever we see, we were in the boat together, you know, whatever have you. Now, of course, most of them are gone. But then we got off the boat. And like I told you, my mother had bread and salami and possibly some cheese. So we come across Canada. And my mother was a very classic woman. And when we got off the boat, she dressed us nicely to meet our father at the train station in First and Main.
First and Main. Okay.
In Maine now, yeah. That was the train station we got off. And I remember her dressing us up and cleaning us up and pinching our cheeks of Romano and I, my brother, and to show that we were healthy. And that's it, I remember. And then we stayed at relatives, and I still remember who was kind to play with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then Romano and I registered in grade 1 at Strathcona. We all ended up around Chinatown, Strathcona area. And like I said, I think I was always very active. And my Miss Schooley was the grade 1 teacher. And of course, you know, whenever it was reading time, she saw that how active I was. She came towards to tie me up. And I remember telling Romano in Italian, I don't think she likes Italians. But of course, you know, I was skirming, moving, and da-da-da-da-da. And then, of course, you know, she did. She liked Italians, just like, keep still, Anna. And then, of course, because I was behind, I was put ahead one grade only. And I went on and I met a wonderful at Strathcona, wonderful teacher, Miss Kinnan. I hated spelling.
Spelling?
Yes, because spelling was sun, this, that. It all sounded the same to me.
S-U-N,
Yeah,
S-O-N?
I didn't know.
Okay.
I didn't know. And she kept me after school to teach me how to spell.
Oh, that's amazing. So you had some good, even though you didn't have a whole lot of money.
Miss Schooley was wonderful. I cannot say people never. I was really. I think I was really never treated ill by one teacher. His name was Mr. Rempel. He used to get a kick out of me for spelling soup and soap. I had a problem.
Okay.
Sun and sun. Soup and I was the laugh of the class because I'd get up, sun and sun, soup and soap. But later on in years, I was doing a fashion show and I saw him there. And I got off the stage. I'm sorry, and I'm going forward. And I went down, Mr. Rempel, do you remember me, little Anna? I said, I can spell soup and soap now.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Because, you know, I was very fortunate to meet some wonderful people.
That's amazing. Okay.
Going back to Miss Kinnan.
Well, I want to go back before that. So you get to Ellis Island, you take the ship.
No, we never got to, we went to Halifax.
Halifax, okay.
We went to New York, our boat. My brother tells me because, you know, he was, he looked everything up. And then we went across, so we did land on Ellis Island, but because we were Canadians, we were never put with the Americans.
Of course.
We put us in a train, shipped us to Canada.
Okay.
And then we came across.
Got it. Okay. And you came across by train?
Train.
Yeah. Okay. And
how long
was
salami
that?
and bread.
How long
I
was
think
that?
it was about 6-7 days.
6-7 days. Okay. From Halifax to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Wow.
And of course, where the heck are we going?
That's not
because
that
you go
long.
through the prairies, right?
Right. Absolutely. Do you remember anything from that trip?
Not
Do you
really.
remember? Okay.
Not really. Only remember coming and we had to look healthy
Right. Okay.
and clean. My mother. Yeah.
Okay.
And and then we got registered to school. And now going back to Miss Kinnan, one time she sent me with a letter to see a student that she hadn't seen, and it turns out Cas, again, we grew up Chinatown, Oppenheimer Park, whatever. Later on, he became one of the top doctors at Princeton University.
Oh, amazing. That's
which
awesome.
You know him, right? And
Marty. Yeah.
Marty, Dr. McLaughlin.
Yeah.
And
I think he did his studies at Princeton, but he went to Johns Hopkins.
That's right.
Which is
right. You're right.
Is just as good.
And he and I talk, and he said, Anna, because of course some of our friends, we had a very strict mother, believed in education, and not my dad as much, but my mother. Mm-hmm. And he and I talk, and he says, some of our friends didn't take the right road. And he compliments me, Anna, we took the right road. Well, I didn't take your road. I mean, I didn't go. I'm so proud of him, of what he has become. And yes, because, I didn't like school. Then later on, I'll tell you one of the nicest compliments I received from your sister. Okay. So anyway, obviously, Marty was not well and wasn't going to school, and Miss Kinnan had an interest in us, a beautiful-looking woman, and she just wanted to know why we weren't in school. So she was concerned about Marty as a child, and he said, again, I must say, with the church, and now that we're thinking about the Pope, he said the nuns at Sacred Heart Church, which is in Chinatown, Italian area, we all were around there. Whoever came, around there lived around, what would it be, Kiefer and Campbell. And he said the nuns saw that I was very bright. And he said, I owe it to them.
That's awesome.
Awesome, eh?
Well, it shows just how important it is to have the right role models around
It
you.
is. It is. Yeah.
Well, so that area of town right now is, it's not the nicest, right? There's a lot of homeless people, a lot of drugs.
But then it was fine.
What was it like back then?
The Jewish people moved out. And,
so it was a Jewish
the Italians came. It was Jewish before the Italians arrived.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I never knew that.
Yeah, I think one day I show you the church down there. It's basically natives now.
Right.
But of course, I went to church there, and some of the most successful Italians came from there.
Right. They all came from that neighborhood.
We all ended up there, and then of course we branched out. Most went to Burnaby.
Right.
A few of us, I always wanted to go to the West Side.
Was there ever a goal to, like, for myself, moving to Toronto, moving to the U.S., was that something that people thought about, or was it, I'm going to build a life here?
Because the relatives were here.
The relatives are here.
And of course,
your whole family
we
was
all
here.
helped one another.
Right. So there was kind of this family unit that allowed for...
Of course.
Okay.
We all helped each other. Yes, true, yeah. And, and like going back to having a strict mother, and, oh boy, was she strict. And which, really... my brother and I think we grew up pretty good. My brother becoming a lawyer in a QC. I was asked to be a judge, but he didn't want to. And of course, I think I did okay. But what was I going, my mother had boarders. And that's, again, young men came to Canada, and we lived 462 Union Street, which I showed you the house.
462 Union.
Yeah, and it was just like, bed on top of bed, and my mother would cook. My dad would go to work. And then my mother asked a younger sister to come to Canada to help her. And I sort of wanted to go to summer school, but no, I had to stay home and work.
So there
from that area. No, it was always a rough
it was still
area. Yeah.
I mean, it was still
The
a tough area to grow in.
I don't
grow
think
up in.
any Italians really got into drugs in that area. We all came to work.
Right.
And the parents, you either go to school and work.
Well, I think that's also kind of another reminder is that structure when you're young is very important.
That's why they
family
came
structure
here.
and all that kind of stuff.
And that happened in the States, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe if your mother isn't looking after you, it's your uncle or your aunt or your grandma.
Right. But, I had cousins, like Stella's sons. I think one son ended up not well. And it was also, being strict.
Right. Yeah.
Parents
absolutely.
coming home.
Having discipline.
Of discipline. That's
absolutely.
Exactly.
So you're in this school and you graduate, you finish high school, and what happens after that?
Oh, I got a nice story because I was good in home ec. I didn't like school, but I was very good in home ec and French.
Would you have considered yourself, you may not have liked school, but did you like learning? Were you a curious person? Did you read?
If I liked it.
Sure. Okay.
I didn't like English because I fainted during a Shakespeare exam and they passed me because I fainted.
You should tell
job,
that.
eh?
You should tell that story. That's a funny story.
Yeah, you heard that story, didn't you?
No, the audience hasn't, so you should retell it.
I have to study for English. And so I stayed up all night drinking coffee. The exam came and I passed out. And that was a good story. They passed me.
They passed you.
Yeah. And then in typing, they said, again, I loved all my teachers, even Mr. Rimple. And he, what was it? He said, Anne, I'll pass you in typing. He said, if I don't want to see you in my class again. Oh. So at least I got 10 credit. Then there was a wonderful, wonderful teacher. He was the science teacher. Willard, that was Mr. Willard. And he came to me, he said, your brother's very smart. He said, is he able to go to university? And I said, yeah, because otherwise they were going to try to find help for him. And I said, no, my mom was really pro-education. She saved for him to go to university and law school.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Why do you think there is such an emphasis on education in immigrant families?
Immigrants?
Yeah.
You can see it in some Asians right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, like I was telling you and your cousin yesterday, we're so proud of you and your education. I'm so proud of it.
Right. Okay.
I mean, this is Nona, it's a piece of paper I got from Massimo. Excuse me, I'm very proud. And so is Nono.
No, I think, is it because it was just something
it elevated us from, so anyway, so my brother didn't need help. I later found my Mr. Willard a report card, and it said how intelligent Romano was, that they were going to try to find help for him. And they said, and Anna will make it on personality.
Personality.
So, which I kind of think I did.
Well, I think it worked out, where you have a house by the water.
And your sister, one time she said, Nona, why didn't you go to school? And I said, I hated school. And she said, well, what did you want to do? I said, I've always wanted to be, I think it's the nicest story. I have lots of stories. I have 8 grandkids, as you know. The nicest one of them is your sister. I said, I didn't like school. So what would you? I said, I always wanted to be a wife, a mother, grandmother, and a homemaker. And she said, Nona, you achieved it. And I think I did.
I do too. So it sounds like legacy is a very important thing.
Yes, I think I did too.
What you leave behind.
That was my thing, to have a family.
Do you think that's the biggest thing that's changed? I'm 28.
Family?
Well, since you were my age versus what the world is like now, what would you say has been the biggest change?
I think now people call quits in a marriage too quickly.
Really? Okay.
100%. 100%. They will argue over money and, I mean, in those days even, which is kind of sad, they stay married only because.
Right.
Only because. And it wasn't that settlement going to court and all that, just. And some of them, you could see they were as miserable as hell.
Right. How long have you been married for?
No, my relatives, whatever, miserable as hell, but they stayed,
Right.
Couldn't stand each other, but, and now I think it's too quick, Cas, because you tell me, over,
How long have you been married for now?
62 years in November.
So what's your advice?
My advice. Oh, first of all, is choice of a partner. I've always wanted to marry someone that had ambition. I would have never, ever married someone that didn't have ambition because I wanted to improve my life. And kindness. And out of kindness comes love. I tell my granddaughters, you can be madly, madly, madly in love. When someone beats you, you fall out of love quickly.
Right.
But if out of kindness and respect, and all, respect is another major word in a marriage. And I don't believe in name calling or anything. Hey, my thoughts, sometimes I wanted to trade your grandfather in.
Right.
We're here.
That's awesome.
And we still like each other.
Well, I think that's respect is the big one.
Yes, that is respect. With everyone, even friends, grandchildren, you have to respect.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a lot of people might see themselves as the elder or I'm more educated than you, therefore I'm smarter than you on this topic. But
oh, trust me, I had a brother.
well,
yes, yeah.
But what it sounds like for you is what matters most is putting that stuff aside.
That's right. I'd like to think I'm forgiving. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to your story. You graduate high school and you become a model at some point. How did that happen?
Oh, I was working at a store. I quit grade 10. My mother's in Italy with my brother because her mother's dying. I had a cousin that I admired. She worked in a paper factory. So I felt embarrassed that I should have graduated, but I'm 2 years behind in school. And I quit school. I was going to get a job at a paper factory. So I saw somehow, I don't know, downtown, whatever have you.
Oh, sorry, no. Do you mind being a little bit closer to the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, all good.
And they had an ad for someone to hang up clothes. It was quite a big store then. It was called Germain's. They had first floor was sweaters and that, and then they had another sportswear and was gowns on the third floor. And I told you I was a sewer. I used to for 36 cents an hour. 36 an hour.
For people complaining about wages today, 36 cents an hour.
And I would go to dressing rooms. Some of them stunk. And I would take all the dresses they threw on top of the bench and hang them. Then they found out that I was a sewer. So I used to sew the loops so they wouldn't fall off the hanger. Oh, yo. Then now I got money, and of course your mother gave you money because whatever you made, you gave to your parents in those days. And I went with my friend Pat. She lived in Oak Ridge. That was very upscale from Chinatown, Union Street. And I bought a coat for about $100. I thought it was the cat's meow. I needed a haircut. And of course, I got to have a haircut. Now I bought this $100 coat, and I see Raymond Salon.
Raymond Salon, okay.
Yeah. And so I said, I got to get a haircut because I ain't going back to what's his name anymore, to Nicholas, the guy that was obviously a homosexual. Because I'm never going to touch anyone anymore. I mean, I'm going, of course.
So you thought that your husband was gay?
Oh no! Yeah, just wait. So so I go to the door, and I said I'd like a haircut, and this was quite upscale. Oak Ridge was quite upscale then, and so they said, "Well, do you have an appointment?" No, I don't. Well, we have a Mr. Mario, and he could probably work you in. He has 2 assistants, whatever have you. Oh, schmuck! Not another male.
That's funny.
And so, okay, again, Pat says, hurry up, get your hair cut, and so we can go shopping, right?
Right.
I mean, our age. So I sit in the chair, and he looks okay. He's not anything to look at or whatever. And he gets the back. My hair was curly, long, and whatever. And he pulls my hair and to the back of my neck to the front of my forehead, and to check out the haircut. And I said, I just want a haircut, no shampoo. He said to me, can you believe it? I do not cut hair that's not shampooed. Oh boy, now I don't have money because I spend it on my coat.
Right.
And my friend said, I'll give you the money, get shampooed. Okay, so I got shampooed. I go to the chair, he does my hair, and then he says, I'd like to take you out sometime. What? First of all, whatever you said to me about dirty hair, and plus I think you're gay, and somehow. And now we're married 62 years.
Well, I think you stood him up on the first date. You didn't show up.
No, that's the night that we proposed.
Oh, okay.
He said, I'm never going to see you again.
All right, so let's go through that story because that's an awesome story.
Yeah. He was a good friend. He was always there, always there. And, I remember having a car accident, my dad's car. Oh my God, I'm going to get killed. And I called him, and he was just always there for me, very solid.
Okay, that's amazing.
Solid, yeah, like now, your grandfather. And so, he was there, And one time, Pat, I stayed in San Francisco for a month with Pat's relatives. I applied for a job in San Francisco, and my mother said, no, you're coming home. The priest there, which was a very good friend of the family, said, oh, I'll make sure Anna, is fine. No, my mom ruled the roost.
Okay, so real quick, you get paid 35 cents an hour at the store.
And then I'm starting to model a little bit.
And then you're starting to do the modeling a little bit.
No,
but it was, for magazines and stuff like that.
No magazines, just newspaper.
Oh, okay.
Most fashion runaway. Most runaway.
Still, that's pretty impressive. And then you get promoted and you're selling the jackets. So at what point do you actually go to the salon?
Oh, the first time I paid him. And that's, because Pat gave me the money to pay him for a shampoo.
So you were just in the industry and you stopped by the salon?
No. Yes, I think I wasn't really. Yes, I guess I was doing a little bit of modeling and whatever have you. Like I said, and I've never paid him since.
That's awesome.
Because, obviously, I asked him, why did you like me? I thought maybe it was my personnel. No, because I was skinny. Okay.
What does that mean?
No, because I was skinny.
Oh, skinny. Oh, no. That's funny.
Anyway, so here we are. And of course, considered a friend. And then I go to San Francisco. Mother even tells the priest, doesn't matter who it is, you're coming home. And that's it. You're not moving out of the house. Oh, in that time, when I was modeling, Canadian Pacific were doing new uniforms. And the name of the company was Chambers. And Mr. Chambers said, because of course I was doing a little bit of modeling, he said, you can be the secretary, come and be the receptionist at my company, and then do modeling when I need it, So it was a factory. Right. And he then got a contract with the airlines, Canadian Pacific. When I met them, they said, you speak Italian. I did, not very well, but I did then. A dialect, because we spoke a dialect at home. And they said, why don't you apply to be a stewardess? In those days, it was quite rare. And of course, I want to travel the world.
Oh, like a flight attendant. Mm-hmm. Wow, okay.
Yeah, and...
Canadian Pacific Air, the airline.
Right then,
Sorry,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
I thought Canadian Pacific was a new clothing company
Canadian,
or something.
And guess what? I was in training from Monday to Friday, and I quit on Friday. My mother said, all she did was cry for a week because I'm going to die in the sky. So she had quite a hold. Matter of fact, my brother, he had that look of the late 50s, early 60s, of the Hollywood look, very handsome fellow, as in his younger days.
Right.
He was at university, and they offered him a job to go to Hollywood or try out. My mother said, "You're not going
to be an actor."
Yeah, you're not going anywhere. You're staying in law. Well, she ruled the roost.
Okay. Well, I mean he did pretty well in law.
Yeah,
so.
she ruled the roost. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
which is good.
Talk about that story about how he proposed.
Oh, I stood him up one night about 3-4 years because I'm going to stay with my Chinese friend. So we had a lady. We lived on 22nd and Renfrew, and my mom had a lady that was calling. Mario's still waiting for you. Oh, tell him I'll be there. I'll be there. By the time I got home, by then I'm driving my dad's old 56 Chev, and I said to him, "Oh, let's take Stella home at UBC." Dropped Stella off, and of course I was a real jerk. It was Mario, he's always there, and he said, "I will never, ever, ever call you again." Obviously, he stood for his grounds. Okay, I said, "I'll marry you."
That's funny.
That's nice, eh?
So you're 25 at the time?
No, I was only 20, not 23 yet.
Okay, because I thought you got married when you were 26.
No, I had your dad at 26.
Oh, okay.
I was 23.
23. Yeah. So you got married at 23.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which people thought I was old.
Really?
None of my relatives
they thought you were
I
old.
was old, yeah. I have my aunt Stella try to set me up with somebody, denturist. I said, "No, Zia, I'm okay."
When were people typically getting married at that time?
About that time?
Yeah, like 20, 21 kind of thing? Okay. 19, 20.
Yeah. And yes, with Nono and what was I going to say? Yes. And yes. And then again, I'll tell you something, because then, of course, I had my relatives. Cas always wanted to do better. That always, than what And so basically, they were all getting married in Hastings Auditorium, which is about, again, Campbell and Hastings. It was an old hall. And I went to my dad, and he said, "Well, let's get married at, I said, "No, I'm not." And then I told him, "No, I'm not getting married there." So he said, "Do you think you're better than your cousins?" I remember having an argument. I said, "Yes." So then we got married in West Vancouver and Frank Baker's.
Wow. That does sound pretty nice.
And
well, West Vancouver, for people who don't know, is one of the richest zip codes in the whole country.
And of course, my dad, because he wasn't well. By then he had lung cancer. And I'll tell you something special about your Nono. And of course, we have, he's going to invite he did upscale hairdressing.
Right.
He always
was a competitive hairdresser.
He was a very good hairdresser, competed a lot and whatever have you. And what was I going to say? So anyway, we make up the list, and your grandfather said, "Why are you inviting these people?" Because he said to my father, "I will pay for my half of the wedding, my clients, and that to my dad." And why? And
who did you invite?
My cousins, the ones I told you did not end up too well.
Oh, okay. So you
said
invited
they're my cousins.
Okay, so you didn't just invite random people.
No,
you invited your family.
Couldn't understand who are these. Oh, he knew them because he lived around that area. He knew they were not very.
Oh, I see. Okay, he was concerned that something would happen.
No, something. How do you know these guys?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got
I said they're my cousins.
Okay.
Obviously, they didn't have my mother as mother.
Got it. So he knew who they were, but he didn't know that you were related.
No, he didn't know that I was related.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
And then, of course, we have a beautiful, beautiful wedding that we got. Matter of fact, I was doing a fashion show at the PNE, and I'm telling everybody, who are you marrying? Mario. Oh, they were all shocked because, we were friends.
Right.
And that's it. And at the day of the wedding was absolutely beautiful. Yes. Then Nono, my father, your great-grandfather goes to pay for the bill because, of course, they're splitting the bill. My dad's doing his bit. And my dad comes out crying. I said, in dialect, I said, Dad, why are you crying? He said he paid for the whole bill.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty...
Right, yeah. Pretty nice of him, yeah.
Well, it was worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it.
It's
So that
very
was
worth it.
yeah, this is what, and that's why we're here 62 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Soon.
Okay, so you get married, and what's life like in the first couple of years of being married? You guys buy a house, do you get a car?
Okay, that is
Maybe
very...
you move to a new neighborhood?
So then, of course, we're going to live in around Oak Ridge. He wanted to move to Burnaby. I said, no, I don't want to go to Burnaby. I've always wanted to do a little, like I told you, better. And so...
Was that a goal of yours, to live in Oak Ridge? Or was it
to
just...
get out of Chinatown, to get out of...
Well, for him, it made sense because he worked there.
I had a lot of guys, Anna, you know what? I was never, ever serious with no one. But, guys, whatever. Nice, but I've always wanted... Nono had ambition, and that's what I liked about him. Also, he was kind, good and kind. And so the first little apartment, and we were not extravagant, Cas. We...
no fancy vacations and stuff like that?
No, we didn't. No. And we rented an apartment near Oak Ridge, a little schmucky apartment. And of course, we stayed there the night that we were married. And then next day we drove down to San Francisco. We stayed at the apartment for about 6 months. I'm coming home. Oh, and then, of course, your grandfather, he says, oh, start looking for houses. So then, of course, I work, and on the day off, we had one car. I always took the car because he walked to work. And I saw a house, Queen Elizabeth Park. He gave me the rough, about $15,000, $16,000. I was going to say millions, no. And one time I saw a house and it was 21. Oh, it was beautiful, right looking at the park and everything. I called him and he said, "You're way out of your budget." So then I started to look again. Come home, I see open house 28 and there, this little house. Got all excited, called him. He came to see it. And the little house. We paid $16,000. Recently,
right,
my fridge broke, and I paid $16,000 for my Sub-Zero fridge.
Right. Well,
crazy, eh? Crazy.
That is crazy. But at the same time, when you mentioned 35 cents an hour, you can understand how much you had to work for.
We bought a house for $16,000.
So
sold it for $45,000.
Sold it for $45,000. That's amazing.
And then I saw a house on Holland.
So
your father was
so
born.
It tripled in value.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So when did you buy it?
Married in November '63 would have been like early
Probably 65, 64?
April in '64.
Wow. The reason I asked that is, when did you sell it?
Okay, your father would have been about 5.
5. Okay. So in those 5 years, the value of the house triples. Are you noticing during this time more people coming to the city? Is there sort of this kind of boom of people?
I'll tell you something, because immigrants, I am an immigrant. My parents were an immigrant. I don't think they have the ambition that we had. Because as you know, the city was built by Italian immigrants, really.
Yeah, it was built by immigrants, that's for sure. 100%.
And a lot of Italians,
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of it. I mean, I'll give you names if you want, but he just died. He said, "We built this city." They came here with nothing. Boza, for one example, a big developer now, he was working for Aquilini that owns the Canucks.
Right.
My mom's house and my mom and dad's house, their second house from Chinatown, they went to 22nd, and he hung the cupboards in the kitchen. Now, Boza is humongous.
Right.
Even in the States.
Right.
They just worked.
Right.
And now, and we didn't go English second language, neither did my brother.
No, of course. You had to fend for yourself.
We amalgamated.
Right.
And that's what's beautiful, and I wish they would do it today.
So at that time, are you noticing that there's more amalgamation, there's more people coming to the city?
To my part and my brother, because, we were fortunate enough, if Romano and I brought home a purple person, my mom and dad accepted them.
What is purple person?
Well, I'm just making a
Oh,
joke.
sure. I got it. If they're, Asian, black.
My mom and dad, and that is a beautiful way to be brought up.
Yeah.
The same as I told you.
Well, there's a lot of people that don't
Right.
think
Remember,
that way.
you had an Asian girlfriend?
Yeah.
Nona, she's Asian. I said, so? No, And some people would say, ooh, no.
Well, I've met a lot of people in the U.S. that have a problem with that stuff. So
not this family.
So, okay. So it's the mid-'60s. You buy your first house. Nono's working at Oak Ridge as a hairdresser. Mm-hmm. What happens after that?
I'm a stay-home mom for sure.
Right.
And then...
now, when you married, it was clear that you would become a homemaker, or was it the fact? Because there were still a lot of women that worked.
Not
at that time.
I don't think so.
No,
not a lot.
Okay. I think that maybe not a lot, but there were certainly some.
Women, yeah. I had no ambition. Oh, I did some modeling.
Sure.
I still did. None.
But it was understood that you would
and then,
be a
of course,
stay-at-home
I had
mom.
children. And I was fortunate enough I didn't have to work.
No, that's what I'm saying. When you got married, was that an understanding?
Basically taking care of his mom and dad at doctor's appointment, and because my sisters-in-law didn't drive.
Right.
And, and I was happy.
Right.
Had friends, new friends. Of course, because now I'm moving, and my Italian neighbors that, not neighbors, relatives, they always thought, oh, well, you moved to the west side. Or, this is, no, I loved it.
Right. There was a sense of...
And I was fortunate people, I got to tell you, when we bought the house on 28th and Heather, there was a lady, Mrs. King, across the street, became a very good friend of mine. And she later on told me when she heard that Italians were moving across the street, the house was going to go downhill.
Oh, they were afraid the house would lose its value. Of course, the Italian.
Isn't that sad? You would not believe that was a doll house.
Right. I think was this the one with
Isn't it sad how people, there again, we put people in a certain...
Yeah, you put them in a box.
That's what it is. Why?
The best way to stop disliking people is to become friends with that group. You know what I mean?
And I have no problem.
Yeah, 100%.
I have no problem.
So, getting back to your story, my dad is born in 1966. Right. And what happens after that? Oh,
then I had a problem, which really I don't want to get into, but, I wanted to get pregnant right away. I had a problem conceiving. And then I had your dad, and then Zio Franco. In those days, it was called matching blood. Your grandfather's positive and I'm negative. And then Zio Franco was very, very ill, and thank God he's here, a big guy now, and healthy. And then, of course, I wanted a big family, and then we decided and then we adopted Franca.
Got it.
And it was because I wanted a big family. But in those days, I've also wanted to adopt more. Oh, there's a nice story about Italy. I've always wanted a big family. And so then I looked at a house which you love and your father loves and everybody loves near UBC. And it was $89,000. Can you believe it? No, we couldn't afford it. From 45 to 89, there's no way.
That's quite a jump.
I think I went just about every Thursday for open house.
Okay.
The kids now I have Franca. No, she wasn't born yet. Applied, and she wasn't. And then there was a downfall on real estate, so. With that house, I loved. And we heard there was problems with the builders. So Nono went to see them and offer them cash.
For the house.
Because
Okay.
he went to the bank. I had a good relationship with the bank, Nono and I.
Okay.
No,
Amazing.
I didn't go to the bank. And he comes home. He said, I offered them $75,000, but I wanted the fridge and the stove. They wouldn't give us it, so we didn't get it. And he said, I'm just joking. You got the house.
Oh,
and
that's
that
awesome.
possibly,
That's amazing.
everyone says, was the nicest house we ever owned.
And that was the $90,000 house?
89, yeah.
89.
He got
Sorry.
it for 75 cash.
Wow. Okay.
He was always a
He
good
had deep
dealer.
pockets back then. $75K? That's a lot of money.
Well,
Even
cash.
today, $75,000 is a lot
We're
of money.
living in our little house, and I was happy making curtains, and I didn't have kids then. I waited 3 years before having children, which I was very, 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 very sad. And he comes home one day. We bought a little apartment on Broadway and Hemlock, and he paid $59,000 or something.
That's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
$59,000.
But he always looked at real estate because your grandfather said, being a hairdresser, another story how he got into hairdressing. Male hairdressers were important in Europe.
Right.
Most of them were men. And someone suggested he didn't know what to do when he came here at 18.
Right.
So he went into hairdressing. And he said to me, a doctor is always a doctor. A lawyer becomes a judge. But an old hairdresser, he said, they're not. We're going to start investing in real estate. And that was very, very wise.
Why real estate? Why not? Because I know that you had
Most
some
Italians went into real estate.
Because I know you had some family members that, or relatives that bought diamonds, some bought gold, some invested in stocks.
No, it was him. It was your grandfather.
Right.
The only one that was in business was really your uncle with the restaurant.
Sure, but what I'm saying is why, out of all the things that you can invest in,
Hairdressing was first, then he went into real estate, and from real estate he started to play the market.
right? So why didn't he start with the market first and then real estate? Was there just this?
I don't know.
Okay, I
don't
was just
know.
curious.
But
Maybe
most
there's
Italians, again, will tell you the first thing they bought here is land, real estate.
Right.
My
Well, that's
father included.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think a lot of people, maybe from that time, it's a more tangible thing.
We didn't own anything in Italy.
Right.
So if you have an
So
opportunity
if you own
to
land,
if
if you have an opportunity
right.
to own land, that means
Exactly.
important.
Land was, I went to lunch with an English lady once, and she said to me, oh, you damn immigrants. She said, Greeks and Italian, they're buying everything in my neighborhood. I kind of looked at her. I mean, I liked her. And I said, Trudy, I said, you were here first. Why didn't you buy it?
Well, that's what people are saying about Chinese now. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, if they're honorable, come here. Why not?
Yeah, no, I agree. But there's a lot of people that have a problem with people in the West End, buying $10,
they
$20
work
million.
hard.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
They work hard and send their kids to school, and their kids, they work hard.
Oh, no, we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you had an opinion on it.
I really don't have an envy with, people that work hard. Right. As long as it's legally, right?
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. So this is the mid 60s. So you're starting your family, but during this time, there's also a lot of conflict in the world. Like the Cold War, for example, just started. There was the Cuban Missile Crisis. JFK gets assassinated.
Oh.
Do you remember any of these?
We got married the day after Kennedy's assassination.
Really? So you remember these moments in history?
Oh, listen, of course I do. Because, in those days, like I said, Nono did upscale clients, female clients. Is that somebody?
Nope, all good.
Okay, thank you, Cas. I remember one, I won't say her name or the family name because they're still alive.
Yeah, keep it private.
It was because, yes, it's negative. I won't say it. And I went in to get my hair done, Friday, because Saturday we were getting married. And at the assassination, she said that Kennedy deserved it.
Really?
And I was in shock.
Wow.
Shock. A prominent lawyer's family in Vancouver.
Wow.
And obviously she must have been Canadian, whatever. I mean, I couldn't understand her. Could not understand her. But then, of course, like I said, married Saturday. Sunday, we started driving to California. And, in the beginning, we never really overspent, Nono and I. We lived well. We always lived well.
Sure.
But we never were,
You never lived beyond your means, though.
We knew people that did everything, and, we didn't. We always, simple family trips and whatever. And as we're going to the States.
One sec, I want to ask this question. So when you were young, the treat was bread with sugar. When you got married, what was the treat then? Do you remember something that you were like, oh man, I love this?
Not really.
No? Okay.
I never flew in a plane. I never really ate in a restaurant.
When was the first time you flew on a plane?
With Nono to New York.
And what year was that?
Your father was born then.
So 65, 66?
Oh, 78.
Oh, 78. Wow. Okay.
67.
68. Excuse me. Okay.
Because we got, with Nono started competing.
I have to ask this. Did your parents ever fly on a plane?
My mom to Italy.
Your mom to Italy? Okay. Was she scared?
I don't.
The flight attendant thing?
She went with my
dying
brother.
In the sky?
She went to Italy because her mother was dying, remember? With Romano. I didn't go.
No, I know. That's very sad. But did she call you and be like, I'm on a plane. This is crazy.
No. I think very unemotional,
Okay, because I remember the first time I went on a plane, this was like the coolest thing ever.
Oh, of course, but then
But I was also, a little kid.
We never paid compliments. I remember being about 50. My dad, one time, he's very sick, and he made a compliment to me. I couldn't handle it. Because we never said I love you and
right.
And I look back and thanks, Dad. It was never no. Now it's different, but I think it's beautiful.
He was very strident.
Yeah,
guy,
it
right?
was very beautiful.
Tough guy.
Yeah, this is what. And then what happened? We went to San Francisco, and basically what Americans ask us, we're driving.
So this is your honeymoon.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And they're saying to us, being Canadian with a license, what do you think of us?
Oh, interesting.
Well,
so there were still those
conversations. They were devastated. Devastated. They should have been.
What were some of the things that you heard at that time?
Nothing. The worst was Mrs. I won't tell you her name.
Right.
Because there's still a big law firm in Vancouver. I thought, how cruel can you be?
One of the biggest moments in American history.
But there's still people like that today, so horribly opinionated.
Right. There's a lot of people like that.
Yes.
So what you drive down to San Francisco and people are asking you.
Different people were Canadian.
Right.
And Fisherman's Wharf.
Yeah, Fisherman's Wharf.
Crabs. And then basically, that's what we drove back. No, it was nothing much of anything. Like, Nono and I, we drove to California, and that's it. That was the biggest thing. And then Nono, and of course, then there was a bad time that happened during the 80s.
Well, before we get to that, we're in the late 60s right now. Yeah. And obviously in the early 70s, there's all this stuff with the Vietnam War, the oil shock, the oil crisis. Do you remember that at all?
Do you know, Cas, I wasn't really in the news then because I had 3 children.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, you may have seen gas prices rise or something like that.
Yeah, this is what...
right. But you didn't know necessarily why that was happening.
I got involved with volunteer work because it was sort of a non-Italian thing not to do volunteer work. But I was very fortunate again. Your grandfather, like he did hair of sort of upper... West Side women, they volunteered. So I always volunteered. And I've been very fortunate that I was encouraged to volunteer. Because that I worked with, volunteered with Expo, Commonwealth Canada. And I was very fortunate that I had the backing.
Right.
Support is the best word. And that's why I love Canada.
Right. Oh, that's amazing.
When my brother graduated from law, my mother looked up, and my mother was a class act, very always elegant, few clothes, but they were always perfection. And when he got his law degree, she looked up to the sky, and of course my dad was there too. Your
dad was alive at the time.
Yes,
amazing.
He was alive, yeah. And she looked up to the sky and said, "Thank you, Canada."
Yeah, that's the Canadian dream.
That's right. You see, that's why school is important and whatever.
So there was a level of opportunity you felt existed here that didn't in Italy.
And of course, he did well.
Absolutely. Did very well.
He did well as a lawyer.
Okay, so we're going through the 70s. You're raising your 3 kids. The 1980s hit, and interest rates are 20%, 22%.
Oh, no, faced 25.
25.
Because, he built a medical building. You remember I told you?
Right.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know, the interest rate today is less than 1%.
It's ridiculous.
It's like 0.5%.
We see that now. We say, oh. And he thought he was going under. I caught him crying twice. I've came to Canada, work hard, and it's all good. I said, no, we'll be okay. We'll be okay, just to support him. Right. That's another thing to make a marriage, to support.
For sure.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's very easy to support through the trip in San Francisco, but not necessarily when interest rates are 25%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And yes, it's, and then, of course, then, of course, Nona was having financial problems before anybody. And then we got out of it. And that's why we built Whistler.
So how did that happen? We obviously don't need to go into the numbers side of it.
No.
But walk us through that time.
Because he's going to teach your father and our kids how to... I'm not very athletic at all. But he wants to teach him how to ski. So then we got Easter. He rented a place for one of his clients in Whistler. So your father, your uncle, and your aunt could go learn how to ski.
Perfect. Yeah, just lean a little bit close to the mic.
And I tell you, oh boy, we had one of our biggest fights then.
What happened?
Married 62 years, but we have had a few.
What happened?
Because the place is so filthy. And, they're wealthy, whatever the hell they are, Shaughnessy people and whatever. I couldn't believe the house. So I started to clean the house for my kids are going to be there. And it was Easter weekend. He tells me, all you do is clean, buddy. Da-da. And he's saying it loud enough the next door can hear. At Easter, I wouldn't even say, peace be with you.
So you buy the house in...
No. We're there renting from his client. But the house was so dirty.
Okay.
I was cleaning.
So they left the house dirty.
They didn't care. It was a ski holiday, whatever. But these are, prominent people that your grandfather did hair. How in the heck could they leave? These are my 2 little boys and my daughter are going to,
Right, I got you.
So I clean, and he's upset because all I do is clean. So we had a big fight, like quiet. Next door can hear you yell that all I do is clean. And anyway, like I told you, I wouldn't even do peace be with you.
Peace be.
No, I wouldn't look at him at Easter Sunday in Whistler. And then another time, wonderful, wonderful friends of ours, the Dumarks.
Yes, absolutely.
I go to lunch and she says, Anna, we just bought a place up in Whistler, Dave and I. So we again go for another holiday. To tell you the truth, I don't think it was the same house. So it was, I don't know. He rented, from clients.
Still, it was in Whistler.
Yeah, we did,
That's the important part. It was in Whistler. Yeah.
And we saw a lot, a beautiful lot.
Okay.
And so we made an offer and we built because we were coming out of our financial crisis.
Right.
And so that we built Whistler.
Amazing.
And it was amazing. And then one reason why we sold, because people were not using it. And then I loved the new house that we're living in now. So I wanted to be here. right?
So when you talk about navigating through that financial time, are we just talking about you sold your stuff and you rebuilt?
We sold quite a few just to keep the medical building going.
Right. Okay. Got it. And then you buy Whistler on the other side.
Yeah. When we were starting to come out. And basically we built Whistler on, we got enough money, so we put the windows in. Then we got enough money, we put the hot tub in, on the installment plan, we'll call it.
That's amazing. That's cool.
So that's what he did.
So what year are we at this point? This is early 80s, 82, 83?
No, I think it's probably a little bit, because we started to build here in 90, right? Maybe a little later.
Okay. Sorry, do you mind leaning in a little bit again?
I'm so sorry.
Do you mind leaning in a little bit again, just to be close to the mic?
Yeah,
no, you're fine. Okay. Makes sense. So Expo happens in 1986. And you had a pretty big involvement in that.
Oh, yes. I was with La Scala for about a month.
What is that? What's La Scala?
La Scala is the Italian opera house.
Oh, Italian opera house.
In Milan, yeah.
But you met Brian Mulrooney,
Oh, that was because of the Commonwealth later.
Oh, the Commonwealth. Okay.
La Scala came, Italy, of course, sent them, and they came on a boat.
Right.
Because they bought their own equipment for they had two operas here, and they brought their own horses. They bought their own whatever have you.
So these people are from Italy,
yes,
and they come here to perform.
The tenors and the opera singers are all flown in, but
amazing.
all the equipment came from Italy on a boat.
Right, I got you.
And it was quite a big deal because Expo.
That is a big deal.
It was exciting. And I was very fortunate, because I guess, I don't know why me, but I guess I spoke a little bit of Italian. I signed up and we became very good friends with the tenors. Mm-hmm. Well, not Nono. I did because he stayed home with the kids whenever I did anything. But like I said, he was always supportive and it was absolutely beautiful. BC, I guess it would be Canada, they gave a welcoming party out at UBC at the Gardens. So all the singers were there and, the different people, not the not the woodworkers, not the stage people,
right.
But all the, the hoity-toity singing opera. And there I started to talk to one of the tenors, and he'd never had children. And then, of course, there was the main guy. He since died. He was Veriano Lucchetti. And Cas, they brought she was an opera singer also, brought her brother to babysit take care of, they were older, take care of the children. So I said, if they don't have anything to do, we lived by UBC, our second house that I adored for, 75,000 cash. And I said, they can come. They sent the uncle to see if we were a proper family.
Oh, interesting.
Because, they were afraid of kidnapping of their children.
Oh, sorry. What do you mean by that?
Well, because Italy was notorious then, for the wealthy, to hurt the wealthy people.
Oh, I see.
During, remember the Getty. Whatever,
got
all
it.
that.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
So they came, and the uncle came, and of course, we're decent human beings, and the kids came and absolutely were wonderful. They came all the time, and matter of fact, one of the
these are the kids of
the tenor.
Of the tenor.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah. Matter of fact, they even they hated for a month. They hated how to eat in places in. Restaurants. One time Nono calls me. I am in the hospital room with one of the ladies. She had a downfall of cancer. And Nono calls me and he said, they're coming here tonight to cook dinner. And I said, my house is not clean, always clean. Because my cleaning lady was not coming for a month. She was on holidays. And they brought oil, they brought pasta, they brought flowers. Unbelievable. And then, the rehearsal, my dad had just died. On rehearsal, they fell in love with my mother.
Oh, wow. So there was
He fell
there's
in
a
love.
reason to stay.
So he said, yeah, when I'm rehearsing for Requiem. They had Requiem, and then they had the big horse deal out by the Peony. That was called the other opera. There was 2 operas, and he said, "Bring your mom," and my mom is in the audience, and he says to her, "Come on stage with me."
Oh, wow. That's super
and
cool.
my mom cries, and she said, "Oh, Tony, can you hear me?" That was to my dad.
Right.
Yeah, they made her special. It was really a special time for me.
That's super cool.
But yeah, they came to the house often, and of course then they left. And she brought a lot of stuff from Canada, and of course she went back with the horses.
That's cool.
Well, no, what was the name of the? Anyway, it was a wonderful, wonderful time for Canada.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So, okay, well, that's
and that changed Vancouver to me.
right.
Expo changed Vancouver.
So that's your story of sort of immigrating to the country and
And
growing up here.
and yes, and always trying to do a little bit better.
Absolutely. So what? Let's go back to some of those questions that I asked you yesterday about, like, what would you say has been the biggest change you've seen in your lifetime? And we talked about it a little bit while
Yes,
telling your story.
yesterday.
But what are some of the big things that you've noticed?
I given it some thought. In simple words, we've lost kindness.
You think so? Okay.
We've lost kindness. I'm in a grocery store. If I pass somebody that they're looking at something, I say, "Excuse me." People couldn't care less anymore.
Right.
No, it's all out for me.
Right.
I've lost that.
Do you think that's because in some ways the world has gotten a lot bigger? Like, for example, I can go on my phone now and read about stories in, the Middle East or Asia, or I can read about what's going on in Africa. And I'm not keeping my world small as a result. I'm not focusing on problems in my community. I'm focusing on the problem in Israel and Palestine. And as a result, I just don't look out for people around me as much.
I think, it's like, the loving one another. Like the Pope just said recently.
Right.
Accept, don't be judgmental. I remember being in Istanbul and going to one of the 3, mosques, right?
Right.
I remember going in and seeing women sitting there, with their all their headdresses and whatever, and connecting with a woman's eyes. I remember how she cared for me and I cared for her. Just a glance. We've lost humanity.
How do you think we fix it?
How can we fix it?
Yeah, what do you think?
Talking to one another and understanding. We all have, biggest thing in life is...
Sorry, come a little bit closer to the mic for this
I'm
one.
so sorry.
No, you're good. Here, let's start over. What do you think? How can we fix
How
this?
can we fix it?
And I'll move
Get
it.
rid of some of our politicians.
I think a lot of people would be in favor of that one.
Yeah, and let's preach kindness.
Do you think religion plays a role in it? There's less religious
Not
people?
really.
No?
Because to tell you the honest truth, I hate to tell you, but some non-nice people are very religious.
Right.
So that goes...
That's more how you interpret the religion and live with it.
Because I really, yes. Is Joseph here?
No. We're good.
No, because I think, show our love by Christianity, or by anything.
Right.
Show our love. And I find, and that is Christian, no.
Right. Religion doesn't have
Muslim?
much to do with it. It's more how you...
One of the most beautiful memories I have is being in Istanbul 2 nights and having the Muslim chant of the city. I went out of my, I guess, or maybe it was in my room, I can't remember, but hearing them chant in their language. Some people find it offensive. I thought it was one of the most beautiful things in the world.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
I thought it was incredible.
Yeah.
But, did you hear them?
Shows the level of unity.
That's right.
Yeah.
And whatever, he was praying to whoever, and, but you see people, we don't say that. All of a sudden we hate them because they're Muslim.
Right.
Well, I've met some Muslim people that are pretty nice.
Yeah, I have too. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
What's... how am I going to say this one? Is there something that you've learned that's like really changed how you think about things over your life? Like, what's the most important thing you've learned?
I was more judgmental. I was young, opinionated. Ooh.
The most important thing I've learned, for example, is to be a curious person.
Curious.
Have an ambition to understand the world.
Biggest thing is for me, well, right now, Casa, at this stage of the game, is my life has changed with Nono. Nono was the strong one. Now things have reversed.
Right.
Acceptance again.
That's an important one, acceptance.
Acceptance of, well, some things I don't accept.
Right.
Tomorrow, I'm going to have 2 MAGAs coming from Bellingham.
Oh, okay. Right.
But there again, I'll put up with them. As your father said, what are you having them for?
Wow.
That's another story.
But that's important, I think, is...
Yeah, I'm not... for sure, I'll give them my opinion, what I think. I think Canada is the greatest thing in the world.
Well, also being grateful for what you have as well. I think that's something that people... You want what you can't have, or you want what you don't have, and to actually take that step back and understand what you do have, and actually physically write it down is very important.
Sometimes people are phony. They only when they hear what your address is, and they're all nice, and I think that's phoniness. That's the other stuff I can't.
Right, that's a pet peeve of yours. A pet peeve.
Yes,
right.
Yes, I hate that. As you know, I hate it. I'm still the same person as I was before I told you. No, that I can't. Envy, I can understand envy. But Nono said you don't have anything to envy. Yes, I did envy. I was very envious. My sister, grandfather was in business with Carlo, his brother.
Right.
That died a couple of years ago. She got married and got pregnant and had twins. I was very, very envious. Why did she have 2 and I didn't have any?
Right.
I was so envious.
Well, that's fair. I get that. I get that one.
Yeah. But I'm not envy of as probably you can tell, I can speak very easily to people. What intimidates me, not wealth, education.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I guess
because they're so
Well, I guess it's something that you don't have, right?
Cas, one of our dearest friend's son, married and went to Scotland. The wedding was in Scotland, and her father was one of the Supreme Court justices in Scotland. And of course, whatever. And so we go there. First, no one says, "What are we going to Scotland?" It was absolutely wonderful. So after the night before the wedding, it's like in our church, is the rehearsal dinner. And I see the father of the bride, whom is a judge in the courts of England, and he's sitting next to me. I'm sitting next to him. I said, this guy's so educated. What am I going to talk about? I was really, really nervous. I said, I'm going to give hell to Janet. Why didn't you put Joan?
Right.
And not me. And so we sat down. Oh, he turned out to be the nicest man in the world. That's one of the nice stories in my life. And do you know what we talked about? Tripe. Eating tripe.
Oh, yeah.
And he was didn't want to go to school, but his father insisted that he became an accountant, then went into law, and then from there he went on to bigger things.
Right.
And woodworking.
Okay.
We had a wonderful conversation. Married the next day, we went to the church, and because of the drinking, all these judges, we went on a bus.
Right.
So we're at this castle, and we're all talking to one another, whatever. I see a beautiful couple all by themselves. He's very dignified, very distinguished. And I start talking to them and just tell her, you look like my sister-in-law, my brother's wife.
Right.
Tiny, cute, beautiful little thing. And we talk about... of course, because of his position, he came to Canada a few times. Then after all the chit-chats, I go back to the father of the bride, and he said, do you know who you were talking to, Anna? I said, no. And he said to the guy below the Queen, what is it?
Oh,
the
man.
top judge in
Oh,
England.
like Governor General?
No, in England they're called.
I actually don't know the title.
Well, it's the Saint Thomas More. What was he?
Let's Google this.
Yeah. There's a word for him. He's the head of the courts in England. Oh, he's called something.
Lord High Chancellor.
Or something, whatever,
Chancellor.
Anyway, he was the highest of the highest in the
the
courts
Chancellor.
of England. And oh my God, I said, if I knew who he was, I wouldn't even talk to him because I'm intimidated by education. He was the nicest man.
Well, you would be surprised. I'm someone that's...
And then I said to Penrose was his name. First name I can't remember. Penrose, the father of the bride. And I said, you mean like St. Thomas More? He said, Anna, we didn't think Thomas More was a saint.
Oh, interesting. No, but I think, I'm someone that's insecure about, I have a master's and, being in the Bay Area, I was, oh my God, this person went to Stanford, this person went to MIT.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, we're all a little vulnerable.
So,
right?
but for someone like yourself that might not have a lot of education,
No,
that
had
doesn't
some.
really mean much in the grand scheme of things,
because
right?
people really want to see the warm side of you, right?
Well, I think at the end of the day, they're in their world of work. They don't really want to talk about work outside of work.
No.
Maybe if they're really into it and they're trying to show off, that's one thing. But
this particular evening, we had to eat haggis. Ugh, I heard all about
Oh,
haggis.
haggis is pretty gross.
And then...
haggis is like sheep's head,
we'll
right?
call them, yes.
Yeah.
Do you know, and I'll tell you, these judges, they really party. And I was asked by Penrose, and I forgot his name now, the first name. And he said, Anna, come, you're going to eat haggis with me. Well, I'll try everything once. Oh my God, it was horrible. And then he gave me some scotch. But try, and we all want to be
Or I think
human.
it's sheep's head. It's sheep's head. That's what haggis is.
No, I think something to do with the stomach. Stomach.
You're right.
Yeah.
Sheep's heart, liver, and lungs mixed together. Oh my God, that's disgusting.
Well, you have to drink something after that.
Yeah, they say, it's a savory pudding. So it's like a
it's
mix.
awful.
Oh my
Whatever
God.
it is, don't try it.
That's kind of gross.
And and because of that, of course, he's been to my home a few times with his wife. She died. But again, it's warmth, accepting, I think you and I talked about this before.
Well, it sounds like one of the big things is just putting yourself out there and not being yourself.
Right. Everybody likes to be loved, accepted.
100%.
Eat.
Absolutely. Well, everyone wants to feel like
Yeah.
they're part of something bigger than themselves and that they belong there.
Yeah.
And that's the most
This
important
is what I remember you breaking one of my nicest vases because you were playing sticky balls.
Sticky ball.
I don't know what you were playing, hockey, whatever. And I came to a corner where you were very sad. Cas, don't worry, I still love you. And I remember you saying, Nona, I had no doubt.
That's cool.
And isn't that what it's about?
Well, I think as you get older, you realize how hard.
No, but then as a child, you think, would you break my vase?
No, of course.
Nothing. You would have been heartbroken. You were a little schmuck then,
There are some things that aren't for sale.
No, isn't that? Yeah, this is what. Yeah, and that's what people forget.
I think a great way to end this would be what's your advice to future generations? What should they think of? What should they worry about? And what should they not worry about?
Oh, I'm so blessed that we haven't been touched by drugs. Our family, illness. All of you kids are all
Very healthy.
healthy.
So be grateful for
too.
your health.
Mind-wise too. That is a blessing. Health, right? And all I can tell you that my last words will be, I have loved you all.
Nice. Let's leave it here. That's a great way to end it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.